Hey, everybody, it's Eric Gross with eXp Realty. We are super excited to be doing this um,
I'm Katie Gross.
with eXp Realty.
Hi, I'm Gordon Green with eXp Realty and the Green Team here in Cincinnati, Ohio.
And I'm Tedra Green, of course, with eXp Realty and the Green
Awesome.
Team.
There we go. Super excited to be doing this. I should be saying we're in Tampa, Florida, not to flex, but also a little bit of Cincinnati, Ohio. So we're super excited to be doing this. We could not be joined by two better people, two people we just we love being near. We're super excited to be growing our business, and we want to be able to kind of take everybody through not just how we met, how we started business, where we're at right now, but really just kind of give some more information on ourselves and kind of dig deeper. So I'm going to surprise you, Gordon, going into
Okay.
this to start. I have the first time we met. Do you remember the first time we met?
Yes, I just went over this story very recently. We met up at Panera in Mason, and I think we were both at Coldwell Banker at the time, and
Yeah,
we were talking about how you were kicking off your business, and at the same time, I was working on my ISA business with calls in the Philippines, working on scripting and data leads and things like that.
absolutely. It was 8 years ago because it was the first year I got licensed. I was a 21-year-old and did not know much, and now I'm a 29-year-old and don't know much. So surprising how things stay the same. But I had a mentor at Coldwell that, I was always trying to talk to people at the office. I was the annoying kid that was coming in and like, hey, what are you doing? Like, I want to be successful. What do I do? And
Yeah.
my mentor said, I have got the perfect guy for you to talk to. He's a young guy. He's ambitious. He reminds me a lot of you. So he connected us in a group text, and you were nice enough to take, an hour or two out of your day. We met at Panera directly outside of the office. Um, and I just remember sitting down and talking with you, and basically, like, I was as lost could get. Um,
Lost
and,
in the
and
sauce.
yeah, I was lost in the sauce, and
You
still
know
to this
what?
day,
I didn't get that impression from you at that time. I really didn't. I saw ambition and I was like, wow, this guy's like 7 feet tall. Yeah, so I just saw that you had a lot of ambition and that you were going to get success done. And over the next couple of years, I watched you just take action, consistent action, and knocked it out.
I appreciate that. And one of the things I did, like, I met with anybody I possibly could, and everybody I met with, like, it was just very, it was almost like vanity. Like, they were just telling me kind of lip service of like, hey, this is, you're gonna do fine, you'll do great, just keep putting in the work. And that was every meeting. And what stuck out when I met with you was you actually sat down and you gave me all of the secret sauce. Like, everybody inside that Coldwell office that I talked to, there were some people that were helpful, but a lot of them were just like, "Look, we're direct competitors. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I'm doing." And when I met with you, as a breath of fresh air, because we sat down and you were starting your ISA service. You were taking me through the list you were pulling. You were taking me through how it works. You were taking me through what you were paying the VAs, what you were planning on doing, and how to leverage it. And for me, I was just like, oh, this dude's like brilliant. Like, I just thought, hey, if I could do 5 transactions this year, sweet. And you were building out this whole system. So to be here 8 years later, to be talking to you, to be to be able to work with you both, to us, it's the greatest thing ever. And it's funny how the world works, and here we are together. So the next thing I kind of want to go into, and I can't thank you enough for that meeting and the fact that we're here together. The next thing I kind of want to go through, though, is basically just how we got into business, because every agent has a different story. I always find it super interesting to hear how agents got into business. It's never what you'd think. A lot of the newer agents nowadays, it's, hey, I watched one episode of Selling Sunset. Having lunch at 2 p.m. and some mimosas sounded ideal, so I went ahead and got my license. But other people, it's a completely different story. So, what got you into the business?
Yeah, so it's interesting you said Selling Sunset. That was not a show when I was looking to get the license. But I was watching something on the weekends, very similar to that $1 million listing LA, $1 million listing New York. Um, and, I was transitioning from my military role. I
Okay.
was in the National Guard for 10 years in the Army. And then I got deployed in 2011 and 2012, came back, realized that my whole life had changed, was going through a really tough time transitioning from military into the civilian workforce, also having a tough personal situation in my life. So when I looked at real estate as an opportunity, at first I thought, that's probably not for me. I don't know anybody. I don't have anyone trying to buy a house right now. None of my friends have money, credit. They're all broke and struggling just like myself. So I looked at that opportunity and said, I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to do it. But for me, what it was is I had a great job. I was headhunted from this company called Recruit Military in Loveland. They found me while I was on deployment. As soon as I got home, I took 2 weeks of vacation and then sat down with these guys and they gave me a position. It was a business to business sales role, connecting with Fortune 500 companies, basically like global talent acquisition managers and HR, trying to get them to hire veterans and build out a veteran hiring program through job fairs, headhunting, things like that. So I got really good on the phones, selling to people in high level corporate positions, and didn't realize what I was actually doing, right? I was just like following the script, hitting the phones. But I hit a ceiling. I was making about $75,000 a year maximum. The company was getting sold to a conglomerate out of Dallas, Texas. And ultimately, I saw the writing on the wall. Like, I could double my efforts here and not get paid anymore. And I think it's just going to get worse from there. I don't see any upward trajectory here. And all the guys that have the primo positions have been there for 15 years. So I looked at real estate and found a mentor, went through a rigorous training program and a hiring process, which, is pretty unique because most people just go online and get their license now and pay $1,500 and take the test, right? I had to go through like a secondary boot camp for the next 12 months, learning how to script, cold call, close, set appointments, do listings, the whole nine yards. So I got into it because I wanted to achieve more. I had 2 young kids at the time, and I had big dreams, right? But I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't really have any assets, so I needed to find a way to build that up, and real estate was that channel for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and my story's I think similar in a way, but my better half over here, Katie, like we had a kid out of high school at 18. And it was tough. Like we were trying to figure out what to do. So we both went to business school, switched to IT. And at the same time, we were both working full-time jobs to be able to pay for Daniel, who's the greatest blessing in our lives. But I was working at a pharmaceutical company, probably like 50 hours a week. She was working 30 or 40 hours, and then we were going to school in the evenings. And then we were very blessed and had a great support system, but also, raising our son. And I found Bigger Pockets one day. I listened to I think at the time there was like 330 episodes. I listened to all of them on 2x speed twice. So when I worked at the pharmaceutical company, I was just in the warehouse. So like we could have headphones in. So like I listened to it and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I want to do this. I don't want to work the rest of my life. I'm a high ADHD person. So I was like, this is, sitting at a desk. I told Katie, I'm like, I'm not going to make it. So we met some agents in Cincinnati and, we were being shown properties. We were super young, and every agent we met with, and it wasn't a shot towards them, but they didn't understand the investing side. And they also, just felt like they were trying to get us to buy a property and to close. Like, hey, check mark off, we're good. And we went through agent after agent after agent, and I found one that was great, investor based. I'll shout him out, Joe Cornwell. Like he is a huge person in my life who helped. And he was like, you should consider, getting your license and look at stuff. He was probably sick of just showing us properties, to be honest. Like he was probably like, you should do this yourself, dude. And I was like, you know what, that's a good point. So I talked to Katie and I said, worst case, we want to flip and buy investment properties. I get my license, we can get into properties, we can run the numbers ourselves. It's not a lot into it. And just naturally getting that, I started getting some closings. And then as we'll kind of talk as that progressed, I finally was like, this is something that we can build as a business. But I completely stumbled into it. Like for me, it was never something on my radar. I wasn't going to high school and saying like, I can't wait to be a real estate agent. It was a just stumbled into it completely. And then once I found it, I was like, I love this. I love the time freedom. I love the ability to build what we want to be able to build, and spending time together. So it kind of grew from there.
It's interesting that you mentioned Bigger Pockets because probably around that same time that you were going through the Bigger Pockets podcast, I was
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So around 2014, 2015, 2016, I was figuring out all the investment stuff. And part of the reason was I cold called this guy who had a triplex down by University of Cincinnati. And you actually met him recently. Remember we were at the little coffee shop there, and a guy came in to change out the beer taps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this gentleman, I cold called him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to sell this place.
Yeah.
I've got a business. I can't do this anymore. These college kids are crazy." So I went over there and helped him out with that process, and I was like, "This guy's making killer money." I had no idea. Like just 3 rentals, and he's making 50K
Yeah.
a year. I was like, "Dang, that's like I could just sit back and relax if I had that kind of income coming in passively." So
100%.
we got on Bigger Pockets, Brandon and the crew there, David Green. Um, Coincidentally, it's also my brother's name, who's not a real estate investor. I've been trying to
Gotta
get
leverage
into it
that.
for years. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a great way to get into it, and we've met a lot of agents that have come through that investing side of the world,
Yeah.
and it is a passion we share.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did a really good job. I remember listening when it was like Brandon and Josh, and we were coming out of 2008 when they started the podcast. It was like, I think 2012 or 2013. But just hearing stuff where it was like a completely different world, and there was all these people that were doing the interviews, and they had time freedom. They had the ability to do what they want. They had the ability to build the business they want, and that stuck out for me. And I'm super thankful, as bad as it sounds, that the agents we did work with were not great, because it led us to doing what we do now.
Yeah.
And we still keep in contact with some of the agents. Like, they were really good. They just didn't understand the investment side of things. But just to see where how I kind of stumbled into it. She thought I was crazy at the time. She still probably does think I'm crazy.
I do. It's okay.
Yeah. And so that's the next thing I kind of want to talk about. We'll talk about how we built our businesses up and stuff. But I mean, obviously we have 2 people on the screen, on both sides. So it's not just me and Gordon, but, me and Katie, you've been licensed 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And I tried to convince her to get licensed with me forever. Like, I was like, "You should do this. Like, we can hang out all the time. And like, you don't even have to go to work. Like, this is great." And she just like constantly was like, "Not a chance. Like, I see what you do. I see the phone calls, the conversations, the text messages, like your chaotic brain." She's like, "You can't convince me to do it." And it took 3 or 4 years for her to finally like take the jump and join. But once we were able to, have that happen, like the growth and all of that. But do you want to talk about, getting into it and what your thoughts were?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had our struggles early, not struggles, but things we had to figure out early on, working together and being home all the time together, and kind of you already being in it
Yeah.
and me being new into it. You had ways of doing things that I wasn't aware of, and I didn't really know how to do anything, because that was my first kind of go at being a real estate agent. And you were like, "Well, why don't you know this?" And I'm like, "Well, you haven't told me that yet." So it was a lot of kind of figuring that out. But I think once we kind of fell into our roles and kind of, it was more natural at that point. We kind of, you were better on the phone, and you're better in talking in front of people, and I'm better at organizing and systems and the back end processes. So
Yeah.
it was a lot better once we kind of eased into that.
Was it so? And part of it too is like Katie was working, a job, and it's not to demean or anything. And I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but I'm like, you're making what, sometimes I'll make in a month, like
Yeah.
at some point it just felt like you're putting all of this time and energy and effort into something where it's like, it almost feels like you're just throwing a ton of hours away. And that was really big for us, like where it was just, it was even kind of a problem with getting her license, because she enjoyed what she did. But it just was one of those where it was like, "Hey, I feel like we're, you're spending all this time at work, and then you could be doing this. We could multiply it and stuff." Was it similar for y'all? I know, Tedra, you were working like.
Yeah. I mean, we had a 5-year plan, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I ran Target stores, and I was in, leadership for 15 years before getting into real estate, and we started investing together. So after we met, we bought our first property together in 2017. And so I think the investment side, and I felt like I was learning a lot through osmosis, not as much as I needed to once I actually got licensed, of course. But learning a lot that way and just kind of understanding, the business and understanding that there was an opportunity that we could do that together. But realistically, I ran a Target store through COVID and it was, absolutely crazy. So thinking about, we said, okay, 5 years, and we had that plan and, we're able to make that happen. And now it's kind of crazy because I think about what we're living and our business that we're running every day is bigger than I imagined, of what it would be back then when we were just kind of talking about that, ripped the Band-Aid off and made it happen. And now we're about 3 years in to working together. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Together 10, married 7, and now in business 3 is kind of where I realized that we were taking in these stages,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I think we have to give a disclaimer. Oh, go ahead, Gordon.
I was going to say every couple years. Yeah. So what's next?
Yeah.
Retirement.
Poolside being a DJ. Yeah. I do have to give a disclaimer that, at least for my half, and I think for yours, like the brains are Katie. So, all of our success like that we've had, like it's one of those where it's like our business when she got licensed, everything I did was Notepad. And I'd wake up at 3 a.m. I'd be like, crap, I forgot to text this person. And she'd be like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is all just going on in my brain. So she came into our business and helped organize it a ton. But I think it's just a disclaimer to say that like all of the success we've had, all of the team success and business success definitely falls on her for being smarter and more organized. And then she lets me be, the monkey with the symbols, just like creating noise. And she's like, good. So awesome.
I love that you say that because realistically, I say the same thing. I knew how to be an agent, right?
Yeah.
I had a dream and a vision of having a team and a business. And my vision was having a bunch of guys wearing suits and ties every day, crushing the phones like Wall Street or something. Appointments.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. And by the time that we brought her on, got a license, and she left Target, that vision was not nearly as strong in my mind anymore. I was like, okay, COVID happened. I'm happy to just wear a hat and a t-shirt in houses. I think everybody's exhausted now.
Yeah.
I no longer wear the 3-piece suit with a tie.
Yeah.
But realistically, I'll share a testament to this as well. Our business and our team, where it is today, would not be here without Tedra.
Yeah.
Without question. Organization, follow-up, consistency, all of these things she brings to the table. I'm like a tornado with a vision, just plowing right through.
Yeah.
Never checking back to what damage I caused as I go. Just like, all right, what's next?
Yeah.
It's called balance. You guys can talk to people for forever, and Katie and I are just in the background, just like plugging away.
Or in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
Passenger princess.
Yeah. So yesterday she was like, because I go through my text messages every day. It's like something I do to organize myself now. So I have a notes app. It's called a brain dump, and like everything that's like important through the day, I organize it. It's based by like week and then month, so I can go through and make sure I'm not missing anything. And she's like, what do you got going on? And I was like, let me just count my text messages. And it was like 12 o'clock. And I'm like, I am up to 60 text messages and 35 calls. And she's like, how? And I'm like, I love this. Like my brain is like so scattered. I'm like, this is perfect for me. So I think there's something to it. Like everybody's got their own strengths and stuff. But, I think, yeah, 100%. We wouldn't be where we were or where we are today without our better halves. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer, not a side tangent. So one of the things you were talking about, Gordon, like you did 36 transactions your first year. I was complete opposite. Like I did 4, and I was lucky to do the 4, and I think it maybe totaled $1 million. They were all like $180,000 transactions. The 36 transactions, like what did that look like growing your business? Like, did you keep that same pace? What happened? Like take me through those first couple of years of business for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I was on a team, right? So I had opportunities and I had training and live coaching.
Yeah.
It was really one-on-one because I was the only listing agent on the team outside of the team leader, right?
Okay.
So our Rainmaker had leads, but he also had cold leads, basically expired and for sale by owners. And my job in the morning was to get there in the office at like 7 a.m., start the coffee pot. 7:30, I was hopping on the phone with an agent from another market, doing role play scripts, objection handling, things like that, warming up. taking a quick breath for 5 minutes, and then 8 o'clock hitting the phones until 11. Cold calling for new business from 11 to noon or 1. I was following up. There were some extra opportunities at the time. We were working with Dave Ramsey's ELP program.
Yep.
That program brought in the crazies. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Not the Dave Ramsey crowd.
Yeah, yeah, very, very wild because basically it was talk radio folks that were coming very, very conservative, like bunker guys.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really interesting, but I got to meet all sorts of people from wild personalities to the person that just lost somebody in their family and now they need to sell a home.
Yeah.
Investors along the way. So it was like basically drinking from a fire hose at all times. Getting in the office at 7 a.m. was new for me because my previous job, I was getting in at 9. I had, plenty of time. Now, I was used to getting up early in the military. I would get up around 4:30 in the morning, but I had left that role and said, I'm not doing that anymore. But now I was being forced to do that again. And then working until 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night sometimes in people's living rooms and kitchens, trying to close deals, trying to get listing contracts signed. And it was a complete hustle. And to be fair, it was so much work, so much stress and pressure that I ultimately started having nervous panic attacks.
Yeah.
Right? I remember one time I was at a $850,000 listing in Montgomery, Ohio, and I had already done the pre-listing. I'd spoken with the husband, just needed to speak with the wife, but it was already closed and they were just going to sign the deal. I didn't need to present. It was done. But my manager at the time, and this was Friday, 5 or 6 o'clock at night after the work, I had stuff going on this weekend. I was very excited about to get this $800,000 listing. He walks in and says, hey, why don't you sit down and do the whole presentation off the top? Now, I had none of my comps. I didn't have my script with me. I'd only been doing the business for 2 months, and the script that he gave me for a listing presentation was an hour long.
Oh my goodness!
Right. So, and I needed to memorize and internalize that whole thing, which was impossible to do because I'm not a method actor. Right. I'm a 20-something-year-old kid. Trying to figure out the world. So it was chaos. Right. I can't lie. I took 2 weeks off in the middle of that first 6 months and just said, is this really what I want to do? Because this sucks.
Yeah. So were you with the team for 6 months and then did you go back or is that when you went solo?
Yeah, I spent about 18 months with the team total.
Okay.
But yeah, then I went solo and admittedly my numbers weren't as high. Right.
Yeah.
I just didn't have those same resources. He had TCs, the whole 9 yards to do the signs and photographs and all the stuff. I didn't even know what I was doing, So my job was singular, close deals, get on the phone, set appointments, close deals. That's it.
So looking back at it, like, were you happy that you jumped on the team because obviously you were like got the experience and the training and stuff, or is it something where you're like, hey, if I could have done it again, I would have went solo?
No, I wouldn't have succeeded. I know that. My limitations are such that I would have bounced immediately.
Okay.
I would have wasted that $1,500, done the hard work, sold like 4 homes and said, okay, this isn't it. I'm going to go back into finance or something like that.
Yeah.
Having the team did help show me what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think having that structure, it's funny because like I could not be on a team. And like when I joined Coldwell, I interviewed a couple of teams and like the fact that you hustled that much is insane. And it's a testament to your business now because I know you do the exact same thing now. Like you're always getting after it. If I would have joined a team like that, I think I would have made it like 5 days and I'd have been like, yeah, bro, like I'm good. So
you made it 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah. I'm an early person. Getting there early in the morning would not have been a problem. I love that. Coffee in the morning, got a morning routine. But when I got licensed, like to me, the freedom was what I really wanted. So the teams I interviewed, like I remember one, he took me through his office and he's like pitching me all this stuff. And he was at EXP at the time and he still is. And he was like, what do you think? And I'm like, bro, this is a call center. Like, I don't like agents are in their cubicles. We're in there interviewing. He thought it was a flex. He had the door open. He's like, that could be you calling. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'd rather not. So it's funny to hear because I think, and I get this question all the time, should I join a team when I'm getting licensed? I'm like, it is personality based because I think it helped you a ton. And you said, it's what helped you make it into the business. I don't think I would have made it 2 minutes. So, and I
I
think,
find that interesting though, because I think your personality now is like you love hopping on the phone, you love talking, you
Yeah.
love connecting, right?
yeah,
But
so to a
you
point,
want to
like
do it on your feet, right? Out in the neighborhood.
yeah. It's a known thing. I walk like 25,000 steps a day because that's where I do my phone calls. But and Andy Weiss, that was the mentor I mentioned at Coldwell. I'll name drop him, but we used to meet all the time, and he would just be like, "You need a time block. You need to do this. Like, these are the things you should be doing." And he was 1,000% correct. The problem is like my brain's not wired that way. I was got good grades in school, but I was a bad student. Like I was getting kicked out of the classroom. Like they're like, "You're talking and distracting other kids." So for me, it's like I have what I know I need to get done for the day, and I want to get it done, and then whatever I do with the rest of my time. So I use Google Task and a calendar and stuff, but it's very much like I have a bare minimum. It's what we tell our team. I'm like, every single day you have to do these, let's say it's 5 check marks. Like you have to knock those out. Once you do it, sit at home and play Madden all day. I don't care. Like if you're consistent with it, that's okay because that's what worked for me. And I know it's different. There's different personalities, but just to hear you talking about the team thing, I think I would have had a nervous breakdown 2 minutes
Sure.
into it. So
It's funny because I've heard that a lot, realistically. I've heard so many people like, I can never do a team, and I'm like, well, I get it. You're going to give up some money, you're going to give up
yeah,
some time, but you're going to accelerate your business, I think. At least that's my experience, and that's what we're trying to bring to our team as well.
yeah.
Teacher, she's got teams of 150, 200 people at any given time at her previous role at Target. And would you agree with me that you were leading and allowing them to accelerate and hit higher goals? And now you're bringing that same energy to our baby agents in the Agent Accelerator program.
Yeah, that's the goal. Absolutely. I think, we were just talking earlier, it's the being able to lead at the right level and be able to help people achieve the success that they want. But I love that our teams are so aligned with that, is because our goal is to help them achieve what their goal is, right? It's not us setting that goal for them or saying, yes, you have to call, this many people a day. It's, we want to help you build the business that you want, which is why I think we've found such an alignment, not just with how you and Gordon connect and how Katie and I connect, because we have a lot of those same, personality traits, but I think
Yeah.
the way that we're running our businesses too, I think that's pretty awesome.
What? Yeah, 1,000%. And I think that's the thing that's so great about being a real estate agent. Is like different personalities can succeed. I talk to agents that are introverts. I tend to lean a little bit more introverted. In a big setting. I know it doesn't seem
Don't
like it.
believe it.
It does. You can ask Katie. You get me in a big group of people I don't know, and I'm just gonna stand off in the corner and peace out, unless there's tequila involved, and
Yeah.
then I'm a
It's
social
funny
Yeah.
because
yeah.
it's like your natural versus your learned, right?
Yep.
I always call
Yeah.
myself an introverted extrovert
Yep.
because realistically, I'd rather just be alone. I don't
Yeah.
want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But I find that I get supercharged when I do talk to people. Like this podcast right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
And I think you do too as well. You like to
100%.
connect on a human level. But at the end of the day, I'd love to just be in the basement on my with my headphones on,
Yeah.
plugged
But I
out.
think I think that just speaks to because we've talked to so many agents and it's all personality based. And we have an agent on our team now. She's brand new, but every meeting she's like, I'm getting out of my comfort zone by talking to people, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like you have to do that. You can't just not talk to anybody. Like that doesn't exist. But you can be an introvert and find ways to connect with people that isn't public speaking, isn't going to 50 conversations. I was, there was a best ever meetup in Cincinnati that Joe Cornwell invited me to, and it led to the investor, Eric Kotner, who helped completely change my entire trajectory of just my business and who I was as a person. And I did not talk to anybody in that room besides him because we had the same name for 4 months. He was like, you just keep coming up to me and talking. I'm like, yeah, bro, I don't want to talk to anybody else. I'm like, we kind of click, right? And he's
Good
like,
guy,
no.
honestly.
Yeah, he's like, you need to get around and talk to other people. Yeah, and I was just like, I don't want to. It's just it freaks me out. So, but that one connection, like that one, talking to Eric Cotner, and it led to where I am today was just me kind of one, it was luck, but it was just getting out of my comfort zone and talking to people. So I always tell the team, I'm like, you never know the one conversation you're going to have in this business that's going to completely change your life. Like it's just around the corner. You never know.
Yeah, we hear that
But
all the time.
yeah,
Agents will have that one conversation that meets that one person, and they'll get 5, 6, 7, 8 referrals,
yeah,
or pieces of business because they're an investor. They flip houses. They're like, you know what? I like it easy. You're my guy. Now you list all
yeah,
my stuff, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's all about having that one conversation that'll unlock it.
yeah,
I've had several people like that in my career so far, and it's unique because they find they'll give you loyalty.
yep,
I think of Gabby and Bulent, for example. They're Turkish, right? And then came here from DC for work.
yeah,
And ultimately, I met them from Realtor.com, a cold lead, showing them some houses, maybe around like 350, $400,000. And now, fast forward, I know they know a ton of people, they know a ton of agents,
yeah,
especially ones that are Turkish in their community group, and they
yeah,
still call me and say, "Hey, can you help me negotiate this $1 million deal?"
yeah,
And you never know, who you're going to talk to, and the relationships you might build off of that, and that makes it so much more rewarding
yeah.
than waking up every day unemployed, scratching at the phone, trying to find another piece of business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it also speaks to because they, like you said, they know a ton of agents and they could refer, they could use other people. But the fact that you did what you did, like it's a huge thing for us. Like you should always do, what's right by the client and always do your best. And if you do that, business starts to compound. Like it really does. Like you don't have to have all of our business in Ohio was, when we were doing 50 transactions a year, was all referral based or past clients. There was no lead spend. I did not prospect until we moved to Florida. Like I tell people, like didn't pay for leads, didn't pick up a phone. I just like talked to people, would try to do the best I would do. If I had to cut my commission to make something work, I would do it. If I had to help clients move, if I had to clean up, or if I had to, whatever they asked, we would just do. Cause I'm like, this is a really big decision for somebody. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I got other stuff, like peace out. But by doing that, we built our business that way. And I think it sounds like, for sure they could use somebody else, but you did such a great job with them and built such a connection that they will only stick with you, which is awesome.
Yeah, they've even come to me and asked me permission to use another agent on a different type of deal. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. That's not in my wheelhouse. So have fun. You have my
Yeah.
permission, but here
Yeah.
is also the referral agreement for
Yeah.
25.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think it's all about just standing out that way. And it's
Yeah,
this business it's not transactional like to us. Like it's very much like all of our clients and our past clients, like we try to have them become friends. Like we try to have, you know, jokes with them and stuff. But that's because it's, you're going through something that is the largest financial decision of their life. Like it's very stressful. And like if you're not personable with it, then it's just going to go south really quickly. Or they'll leave it and just be like, I was another transaction.
yeah, that's
Um,
possible. You have to care, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Because we all deal with really tough situations in real
Yeah.
estate. And sometimes by osmosis, you have to inherit the stress that the client is going through. And realistically, they're not making a move, randomly just because it's Wednesday afternoon, right?
Yeah.
They're making a move because there's a birth, a death, a job, college,
Some
something
motivation.
changed in their life that's forcing them to do this because it is difficult to pack up all the stuff that all the memories that you've had, especially when you lived in the home for 10 years or longer. Maybe you've seen your kids raised here, or maybe your parents had this house and you inherited it from them. There's a story behind it. And if you don't find some empathy and some caring along that process, it's like, what's the point? You know,
100%. Yeah.
to get a check at the end, that's no way to live
Yeah.
realistically, because we've all got really short time on this earth. And what I found in my older years, I'm 43 now, it's like you have to cherish those memories and those moments, even the tough ones that, you're pulling your hair out like, God, I don't, every time I see this guy's name on the phone when it rings, I'm like screaming like, God, no, like, but at the end of the day, it's like, you're going to get over that hill and you're going to have a story, you're going to have a lesson, and
Yeah.
hopefully you have a win at the end of the day, and so does your client.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. It can't be said better, honestly. I do want to go back, so because I've never heard your full story. Like we've known each other for a really long time. So you went from the team to a solo agent,
Yeah.
and you said your production dipped a little bit. Like what did that look like? One, when you joined, like left the team, were you like freaked out and like, oh no, I'm gonna go broke, or like what when you were leaving it, like what led you to leave it, and what were your emotions like becoming a solo agent there?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I had a really tough conversation with my team leader.
Okay.
We met at Hyde Park Square, went and grabbed some coffee, sat there on the park bench, and basically I told him this, word for word. I'm like, I could be doing 1/5 the amount of work with 1/5 the amount of stress and
Yeah.
get paid the same amount,
Yep.
or I can continue at this level and get paid 5x.
Yeah.
And we're talking a very smart individual, graduated from a very high college, was recruited by the CIA, right? Somehow ended up in real estate. I have no idea why. Maybe his background check flopped or something. I don't know. He considered it, and I could tell he was thinking about it. I was like, oh, yeah. He's like,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. And we shook hands and walked away. And to be fair, I should have been like, oh, like, what? But honestly, I was like, I'm about to have the best weekend of my life. All my stress is gone. I'll figure it
Yeah.
out on Monday.
Yeah.
Right? So I was still at Keller Williams at the time, and
Okay.
basically I went to my office manager and said, hey, look, I am no longer on the team there. I want to go solo. I need my own office space. I'll do whatever it takes. Let me
Yeah.
know, because I'm going to be in here every day, Monday through Friday, possibly on Saturdays, cold calling and making appointments, and I need to be prepared.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I did that for, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months, something like that. And what I realized at the brokerage I was at, Keller Williams, it was like a high school in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. There was drama club, there was infighting, there was backstabbing, there was all kinds of rumors. And I was like, guys, like, we are selling homes, right? What are we
Yeah.
doing, right? I realized there was too many agents that had too much free time on their hands and not
Yep.
enough business, and they just wanted to get out of the house and go somewhere else to chit chat.
Yeah.
So I said,
see that.
I'm having a hard time. One of the objections I was getting as I was cold calling for listings was, are you Mr. Keller or are you William? And I said, no, I'm Gordon, right? I'm your agent. I work with Keller Williams. They're like, well, are they around? Can I talk to them? I'm like, no, Gary's in Texas right now, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't even talked to him myself, so no.
Yeah. He's a bestseller.
And I said, I'm trying to go after some more higher end clients.
Yeah.
And I said, I think it would make more sense if I was at a brokerage that it was instantly recognizable. So I looked over the playing field, and I said, Coldwell Banker has their sign in the yard of all these luxury listings.
Yeah.
Right? I knew
Yeah.
for me, like the local brokerage, Sipsey Klein was not the way to go.
Yeah.
So Coldwell Banker training program. I linked up with Joe King, the president there of the region, and he courted me, brought me in, gave me a lot of opportunity and support, and I just hadn't looked back for like 6-7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So Coldwell was one of the only brokerages that would take me. That's why I joined. And they're like 50-50. And I was like, sweet.
Yeah. You
I
could have
interviewed-
done 60-40, just a little bit of argument.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I interviewed with Sipsey Klein and the manager. Like, it was the worst interview I've ever had in my life. And then I did Comey, and they're like, if you're not going to be full-time, we don't want you. And and then I interviewed at Coldwell, and Mike Russo was the broker at the time, the manager. He's like, yeah, why not? Like, I'll take you on. So I was in his office all the time. He's probably sick of seeing me, but was super helpful. So, and then obviously that's where our paths crossed. But so when you left the team and you went solo, and you said you like, what did it look like success-wise? Did you struggle to get, leaving the team, having the structure, the leads, the resources? Did you was there a year of struggle, or was it just like production dipped, but you were still doing really well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I tested some things out, and I followed some opportunities. I think I was kind of a hot commodity because other teams were calling me left and right.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I did well on one team. Maybe I can do well somewhere else. I interviewed with Kim Tim, Amy B, for
Yep.
example, Ren Jones directly with their agency group in Marymount there.
Yep.
Ren Jones owns Vulcan 7, which is the calling system I was working with.
Yep.
And, I took a moment with Amy B for about 2 weeks and realized this ain't it.
Yeah.
Her personality and my personality just don't vibe at all. We can't have two alphas in the room, right?
Yeah.
Double alpha, right? No.
Yeah.
She was leading that ship, and I realized, like, if I didn't bend to her will, I wasn't going to make it.
Okay.
So I bounced from that opportunity. I worked with Ren for maybe a couple months, basically to get free software because their stuff was $300 a month. And I was like, okay, I can work here. It's close to home and I can
Yeah.
get guidance, right? Directly
Yeah.
from the guy who created the system. But ultimately, I bounced back and I said, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to figure it
Okay.
out on my own. And, once I said, this is my business, then I hit the ground running.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know you went to different teams. I interviewed.
I told
Um,
nobody.
Yeah.
You're the first person to hear this.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
Breaking news.
Yeah. When I was at Coldwell Solo, Andy at one point was like, you should interview teams, and I interviewed a couple and outside of Coldwell, but again, I knew. I was like, because they were like, yeah, you do have to be here. There's a certain amount we expect from you, and I'm like, I don't like that. So I was like, I'm just gonna stick with myself. But the team thing, it's always interesting when I talk to agents, because it's just, again, it comes down to personality. So the fact that you kind of went to different teams, and it's just trying to find a match and trying to find like where you're going to be successful. And I think for most agents, being on a team is great, because there's stuff that if I could have done it, like, I would have learned a lot. I just learned the good old fashioned, like, fail forward and like screw it all up and be like, I don't know what's going on. Where if I had been on a team, I think I would have probably started out in a much better position. So I think that's interesting.
It's all right though, because it takes different paths, and now we're in very similar spots, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious about this, Eric, because you didn't want to join a team, but you ultimately became a leader of a team.
Yeah.
Mindset wise, there.
Yeah. Part of it was like, so when I was at Coldwell, I always have like a funny story. Everybody in the office was like 60 years old, everybody. And I was 21. So like I would ask for help, and like there was some just really amazing agents and people in there. But like I literally would have them be like, you're my like great grandkids age. Like, I'm not going to sit here and hold your hand. I'm just like, sweet. And then when I left Coldwell, I actually went to Keller because I had a cap, I had better split. I had the brilliant idea of quitting my full-time job 2 weeks before the COVID shutdown, and was getting recruited by a guy, great guy at Keller Williams, and he was going to coach me. And that's why I was going to go over there, because I just wanted coaching. That's what I wanted. And I joined, and I called him that same week, and I was like, I'm ready to start our coaching. When do you want to start getting the dates together? And he's like, funny thing, I'm no longer coaching. I went to production. And I was like, well, I just quit my full-time job. COVID shutdown's 2 weeks away. I've got at the time, I think Daniel was like 4 or 5. I was like, I screwed up, like, big time. So I finally like just had a click where I was like, I'm going to have to do this on my own. Like, there's not going to be anybody that's going to be there to help me. Like, and there probably was, I just didn't find them. So I just did everything solo at Keller for a really long time. But our broker would always connect me with agents that were struggling in business, whether they were younger or newer. And he would always be like, hey, do you mind helping them? And I really, I think I got more out of helping those agents than I did out of closings. Like, I loved it. Like, I gave him my personal number. I'm like, call me, text me. Like, I was in your shoes. I can see, like, in your eyes, like, the same fear, like a lion's about to, like, take you down. I had that. And I was like, so to me, it was more of just like, I've always liked the, mentorship coaching thing. I've always enjoyed that. I've always liked being able to help people in that regard. I think even now, like with our team, I like to see their success more than, I care about our success. So it kind of happened just naturally. I never wanted to be a team lead. I never wanted to have a team. But when we moved to Florida, I pretty much consulted with some people we really trusted business wise. And they're like, you should have somebody up here. You've built a really good base of business. You don't want to just leave that behind. Because I was like, I'm going to a beach. Like, clients are calling. Peace out. So we, about 6 months before we moved down, we started reaching out to some agents. And our focus was younger agents. Because I think younger agents, a lot of times in the business, they just don't get the time of day they deserve. And I think it's, the average age of a real estate agent right now is like 58 years old. Like it's up there. And it's, not ageist. There's nothing against it. But it's one of those where it's like when you're a newer, younger agent, you're kind of automatically, like I would meet with sellers and buyers and they're like, dude, you're 12 years old. Like, I'm not going to buy my house with you. You're like literally, got a mustache. But at the time I was baby faced. I'm like, what do you mean? So it was big for me. And Eric Cotner, like, meeting him, part of it was just like the business he got, but he like helped give me the confidence. So the way, like I met him and talked with him, and then he made a post on Facebook one time and he was like, I'm looking for an admin. And at the time I was telling Katie, I'm like, this would be perfect. Like I could have some stuff hourly. I can learn how to do the investment stuff I want to do. So I commented on the post and I was like, I'll be your admin. He messaged me and he's like, hey, I know you enough. Like, I would not hire you as an admin. Like, you're the most disorganized, like, chaotic person.
Not a chance.
He's like, I love you. Like, you're a cool kid, but no. Like, and I was like, oh, sweet. And then he texted me. He's like, but I am going to be doing, like, I do need marketing at some point. And he's like, and I do like, this, like, at the time I was posting on social media as much as possible. And he's like, I'll bring you on as the marketing manager. So he paid me a cool $300 a month. And I was basically his, I'm not going to use curse words for it, but I just, anything he didn't want to do, he was like, I was driving to his properties and they were in Anderson Township. They were in Hamilton. They were in Cheviot. And I was like, he's
Blanchester.
like, Blanchester.
Was probably
Yeah.
our
Like
Yeah.
every week he's like, I want you to go and you're going to take photos and update and progress and stuff. And I'm like, that's not a marketing manager. What are we doing here? So I just committed to it. And I did it and I did videos and a lot of people started to really enjoy it because they were these really crappy houses. And then I randomly messaged him one day and I'm like, hey, I see you're listing these properties with other people. Like, what do I have to do that? And he's like, you bring the deal, you list it. So I was like, it clicked for me. He showed me how he ran comps and I sat there all day and just ran comps on properties. And I was like, hey, this is a deal. This is a deal. So I finally started locking him up. And then, a couple of years later, I ran his entire acquisitions, dispositions, and all that stuff. But it just was kind of by luck, by random. But long story short, he gave me the confidence to be able to like understand what I was doing or know what I was doing. Yeah. And the thing we see with a lot of new agents is like they don't have confidence. Like you don't want to go into a room where you're like, I'm going to feel dumb or I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And a lot of them are very smart. They just don't have that. So that was big for us, like with the team. Like we were like, we want agents that have that drive and desire. They just need the confidence to be who they, can be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because when you're a younger agent, your options are pretty limited, right? If you don't find a mentor, to get a coach is $500 for a group class. And these numbers probably went up by now. It's been 10 years. But when I first started, it was $1,000 a month for a one-on-one coach that would talk to you for 1 hour per week.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, I don't have that money. I can't pay you 12,000 plus, plus I have to go to an event or I can't be a student. Right. And then it's another $5,000-$10,000. So, I looked at that and I said, I found a mentor. I took a huge pay cut to get to that mentor. And I realized a lot of other agents, they come into the office with deer in the headlights. They have no clue where to start. And then they plug into, a training class that's given off by the office manager, once every Tuesday afternoon. And they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Right? They barely know the fundamentals, but they have no confidence because they have no experience. They have no at-bats. Yeah. So we now, our philosophy as team leaders is to put our agents into situations where they have more at-bats. And rather than failing on their own, they have us to fall back on and say, okay, I did this, but it didn't work out. What
Yeah.
should I do next? Right? How do I do this better? Right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, those agents will ask that question about two or three times, and then we're like, figure it out on your own. Call a
Yeah.
buddy, phone a friend. Right? This is
Yeah.
her line. Right? Don't call us.
Phone a friend.
Look at the SOP first. Phone a
Yeah.
friend. Talk to ChatGPT, and then if you still can't figure it out,
Yeah.
call Gordon.
Yeah. Well, and I think it kind of goes back to the team thing, but I think that was like the thing that did help me was like I didn't have anybody to go to, so like I just was like bouncing around to figure it out. And I think that's where a team solves that for you much quicker, whereas like my way was like the worst way to go about it. Like I was just like bouncing around calling different people, but
What
if
was
you
your
haven't
mindset though? Because most people that end up in that situation, they don't go bounce around. They bounce out,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And the
100%.
failure rate, in the first 5 years is like 90% of
Yeah, it's
licensees
super
don't
high.
sell anything and they get out of the business. So, what was it about your mindset that kept you going? What was your motivation? What was that why for you?
I'm a dummy, so like I don't really like there's to say I had like a motivation or something. It was more of just like I don't know what I don't know. So like it was just at that point like I'm gonna figure it out. I didn't get licensed obviously because I wanted to do the investment side to become a big agent. That was never my thought process. Not even like the first year I did 50 transactions. Like it was still kind of like a hey, this is just kind of a lead way to get investment properties. And it wasn't until I'd done it for a couple of years where I was like, oh crap, like okay, this is a business. You can treat it as a business. And then she got licensed. It was like we're gonna treat it as a business. But
Yeah.
it was one of those where it was like if I was working with somebody and I didn't know, like one, I didn't have a problem telling somebody I didn't know something. So like I had clients, like my first client, I was like, I have no clue what to do next. And I submitted the contract to the agent, and she called me and she's like, "Oh, honey, like this is so wrong." And I was just like, "Is it?" And I was like, "My broker gave me another contract and just told me to like copy it, but change the numbers where I needed to change it." And she's like, "You don't understand any of these lines?" And I'm like, "Not a shot. Like I have no clue." Um,
You didn't
so
go to
she,
the Sipsy Klein contract class, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we didn't have that. Like I remember when I did write that contract, I went into my broker and he went into a dot loop file and printed off a different thing. He's like, obviously change purchase price and stuff. I knew better, but other than that, I was just like, cool. Like I don't. And she's just like, what are these dates? Like half this isn't even filled out. And I was like, what's up? Like, we accepting it or what's
Let's do
going
a
on?
deal.
Yeah. So, and it ended up being a deal and a closing, but I never have a problem telling people I don't know something, and I think that helps a ton because if you try to like you can fake it till you make it 100%. I think there's something to that, but if you just tell somebody like I don't know, but I'll find the answer, then they're a lot more receptive than like yeah, I know, and then you try and fudge it and it goes really poorly. So I
Yeah,
learned that
that's
out
that's
super
so
early.
true. Yeah, I think you and I are a lot alike. I have a curious mind. I'm trying to always like ingest information and knowledge at all
Yeah,
times, right?
yeah,
I want to, I like grab something, an idea, whatever it is, and I'll just go down that rabbit hole until I kind of know everything about it. And then I
yep,
file it away in a folder. I'm like, maybe I'll need that later.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I was taught early on, like, don't lie, right? Don't fudge. Just tell
yeah,
somebody, like, I really don't know the answer to that question, but here's the good thing. I do know somebody that knows the answer. I'm going to
yep,
call them and find out. And if they don't have it, I'm going to call somebody else and then find out. And
yeah,
I will find out a solution for this problem because that's the only thing that's on my mind right now. So I think for me, when I was younger, I think a lot of people do this. It's kind of a natural human tendency. It's like if you don't have the answer, you're just like BS, right? I'll just
yeah,
BS it. And
yeah,
as the older you get, the quicker you look like a dummy when you start guessing it, right? So I think you gain a lot more respect by just humbling yourself and saying, you know what, that's a really good question. I
yeah.
don't know. Let me find
Well,
out.
there's still stuff in our business like and there's agents that I worked with when I was first getting started that were like they've been in the business for 30 years and they'd be like yep, don't know, like so there's always stuff in the business we're coming across where I'm like I genuinely do not know.
Yeah.
And even with the experience we have now and hundreds of sales and stuff, like I tell people all the time like I I don't know. Like, let me talk to somebody. Let me talk to a broker. Let me talk to an attorney. Let me talk to the title company or the lender because you're gonna come like every day is new being a real estate agent, which is the thing I do like about it. It's not super monotonous. You're always running into different things. So when something pops up, like we like to figure those things out, and you have to, unless you have a really good support system. I learned by screwing stuff up. Like I remember the first time I like got past the inspection date and didn't have the addendum over, and then I sent it a day late, and the agent's like, yeah, you can take that and, shove it where the sun don't shine. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm requesting this. And like, so there's stuff like, and then I never made that mistake again because I cut my commission to cover the inspection stuff. And I'm like, I'll never do that again, ever. So
I remember that happened to me with a high performing agent at Coldwell Banker.
Yeah.
And I was like, I literally just lost track of the date. I thought today was the day. And she's like, too bad.
Yeah.
So sad. I went all the way up to the broker and they're like, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah.
I'm like, dang. So I don't even know how that situation played out. I just remember it as like one of the worst days of my career.
Yeah.
Blocked that out somewhere.
Yeah. You're like, let's just erase that.
Let's never do that again.
Yeah. To that though, there was a couple of times where like I had like, again, like lost track of date or something. Cause it happens. And I've had agents that are like, still submit it. We'll see what we can do. So we are like super big. We just actually had a closing last week where it was the agent's first closing, and I didn't know it until the very end. But the whole time, like he'd call and ask questions and stuff, and I'd just answer it. And then he texted us the day of closing. He's like, it was my first transaction. Like, thank you so much. Wow. So for us, we had some like really positive experiences with other agents. So for him, I was like, this is my personal number. Like, if you have questions or anything, if you can't get a hold of your broker, if you can't, like, I can't give you legal advice, but I was like, give me a call. Like, I'm glad to help out. So I think being able to kind of like pay it forward that way. Cause I had some agents that were like, yeah, you made an oopsies, we'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, thank you. So
yeah, I mean, you realize that every once in a while, there's another agent on the other side of the deal, and you don't know what stress they might be going through, right?
100%.
They might not have had a closing for the last 3 months, and they're depending on this absolute every penny to come through in order to pay their mortgage and car note and survive and pay the kids and feed them. So you never know. And it's interesting because when I first got in the business, I realized that we were at a low level, right? 2012 was like the hardest. It was the low level, right? We hit the absolute ground bottom in Cincinnati and a lot of other areas, of course. So when I got into the business late 2014, it was like summer 2014, I started doing my interview process.
Yeah.
By the time I got licensed in January of 2015, I realized like, hey, we are on an upshoot and home prices are still really low. Deals are easy to get. And it's going to keep climbing. Now, I had no idea, no crystal ball to picture what would happen in 2020, 21. But I realized like we're going to go up and we're going to crash back down. And it might not be like the recession we saw in 2008 to 2012, but we will have some sort of recovery, a contraction, right?
Yeah.
And we're in that market, and we have been for the last really 3 years.
Yeah.
It's like a silent recession. So
100%.
I'm loving this because one, it's not too much harder to get business, but two, all your competition is crushed or they've left the building.
Yeah.
Right? So year over year, we're up 7% on sales in Cincinnati, in Ohio overall. Interest rates are high, right? But agent count is down almost 50%.
Yeah.
Loan officers are down like 60, 70%.
Yeah.
Right? So the people that are making it right now are those that have a plan, they're doing the business, they're consistent, and they're seeing the opportunity and they are not taking no for an answer. They're just getting after it. So I keep telling like everybody in our agent group, agents that are not at EXP yet, there's more opportunity now than ever before, and you need to be getting after it.
Yeah, and I want to get into the EXP thing here in a moment because our stories were they merged, they diverged, and then they merged again. But I had a really good, a mentor of mine in Cincinnati that had been in the business for 30 years, and we were still in Cincinnati in 2022 when interest rates started going up, and I panic called him and like, am I cooked? Like, all right, I finally got I'm like, the business is finally good. I like have saved money, but like if rates go up, I'm screwed. All this other stuff. And he's like, dude, he's like, calm down. He's like, there's ebbs and flows with this business. And he's like, when it's going really good, you get a ton of agents that flood the market. There's all of these people you're competing with. When the business starts to slow down, or like the last since 2022. It's the lowest transactional volume since 1995 we're going on, this will be the fourth year straight if we, end 2026 that way. And it is like almost, even 2008 had higher volume. It was like 1 million homes more were being sold. So for agents, for inspectors, for contractors, like that's actually, pricing aside, the low volume is what makes it really tough to succeed as an agent. And he just gave me the advice of like, there's ebbs and flows. When the business is going really well, you're going to see a ton of agents enter the business. When the business gets really tough, which I think is where we've been at for the past 4 years, you're going to see a lot of agents leave the business. And, you guys have grown your business in a really tough market where a lot of agents and teams and other people are leaving the business. We've been able to grow our business. And I think it's just because there's people leaving the business. There's opportunity that's there. You don't have as much competition with the agents that were doing a handful of deals a year or 1 to 2 that were kind of taking some deals away. And there's a chance to succeed in every market. You just have to find it. So when the market's really hot, you're going to have higher volume. You're going to have more agent count. But when it's, lower volume count, you're going to see agents leave, and somebody has to pick up those pieces that are leaving behind. So
yeah. I'm happy to be the sweep up guy.
Yeah. Well, and his theory too, and it might actually be playing out, was he always kind of felt that the solo agent's going to slowly start to dwindle down, the amount of solo agents, and everything's going to start to become teams. Because a lot of agents, even when there was high volume, 75% of agents were doing, not even 75%, I think it's actually like 90% were doing less than 4 transactions a year, and 75% were doing none. So there's a really big bulk of deals that get done by the majority of agents. And that's a stat that can change, and I think it should change. But there's high producers in every market, and then there's people that are, only doing a couple deals. And I was there, and it's tough, but a lot of agents quit before they kind of get that breakthrough.
Yeah.
Cool. So you were at Coldwell, and then you're at EXP now. What happened? I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty unique because late spring 2023,
Yeah.
Tedra left her role at
Okay.
Target, got
Yeah.
licensed, came over, and we had high hopes for the future, and then the interest rates hit
Yeah.
7.25%, and I remember distinct 3 years ago to the month, it was like the whole market just slammed the brakes.
Yep.
And I couldn't get anybody to buy, sell, pick up the phone, have a conversation.
Yeah.
It was really a tough time,
Yeah.
for us personally. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. We just brought you on. We left your salary position and all this stuff, and now we're going through our savings really quick. And by the end of the year, we had barely sold anything as we kicked this off. And I was like, all right. The Lord above has given us a challenge. He's going to say, what are you going to do with it here?
Yeah.
So by the end of the year, we were like, okay, are we going to do this, or are we going to find jobs? Like
Yeah.
January. Like it was really that serious. So she had just entered the training program at Coldwell Banker, and you want to share, like, you had some resistance to EXP at the beginning because you were already plugged in. You knew your people. You had your manager, your trainee, things like that.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience there.
Yeah, I mean, so when I got licensed, he was with Coldwell, and it was like a small family. Like the managers were great, like they were super supportive. But for us, I think even just with getting paid as a team, we were running into obstacles and roadblocks at all those times. But I didn't want to leave. Like there was consistency. I knew who to go to. I had just been through onboarding, which was great. Like, so I think, and I'm a very loyal person. Like I stayed with my last company for 12 years through all of the ups and downs. Right. So I think for me, change was scary. And to be fair with you, when I came into real estate, I didn't even know what a CRM was. Like I had no idea. And I was like, what do you mean I have to live and die in this like every single day? So for me, that change was really like a big concern. But we realized that like for us, we were going to the office and I was like really trying to be plugged in because I needed to learn, because I said I had learned a lot through osmosis, which I did, of course, like over, the course of our time together. But at the same time, I really had no idea getting into the business. And so we were plugging into office meetings and all of the things that we could. But I would say the energy was, it was a tough time in the market, and that was what we were constantly hearing. So, it was one where we needed to find something different to, level up our energy of something that could, really motivate us. So we had to go back and say, okay, what do we need to do differently? How do we need to be focused? How do we need to treat this as a business for both of us, right? This is now going to be our full income for our family and for our investments and how we're going to, build a future here. So it was very, very different. And I think realistically, I underestimated that. I got licensed and thought, I'd been talking about getting licensed for 5 years. So I thought people were just going to start calling, right? They're just going to start calling us, and they didn't. Thankfully my cousin and his now wife were ready to buy a house that summer. So that was my first sale, which was great. But it really was needing to surround ourselves with like the right people. And I know I learned a lot about that. My previous career is you want to surround yourself with people that are genuine and that are going to support you. And I think that's what we realized is EXP was such a platform and a, launching pad for us to be able to do that, because we got to come in and figure out what business we wanted to build and how we were going to do that, rather than doing that with, somebody else's structure and playbook that had already been set up. We've gotten to come in here and be able to do that ourselves, which has taken some time. But I know that was the biggest thing is, finding the people that we align with and seeing another husband and wife team, do that and figure it out, I think was one of those where I was like, okay, we got this. We got this. And it was the change that, we needed. Because now looking at that, we brought on our first agent on our team, not until the beginning of 2024. And so then, fast forward, it's mid 2026, but it's really not that long ago, that this kind of all really kicked off for us. And to think about that growth is pretty exciting. Because I remember coming over to EXP and talking about, as a domestic team, I think the benefits at EXP are hands down the best that you could have. So I think that was a huge win for us, but I was like, man, I can't wait till we cap. I can't wait until we icon, but those things felt so far away for us at that time. I was like, we're going to be lucky if we do it. And we did it in our first year by the skin of our teeth, but we did it. It was one, we were counting those transactions and making sure, but it was so exciting. And I think, that's the energy and thinking about who we have aligned with, and you guys cheering us on as we did that, right? It's really exciting because now that's what we get to take to our team too.
Yeah. And from my perspective, when I was thinking about EXP, I was watching a lot of Mike Sherrard Wolfpack videos on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll bleep that out.
Because,
I said, we'll bleep that out.
Here's what's exciting about it, because there are so many different groups and
100%.
ways you can build this business, right? So I was watching this thinking like, how can I build up my own funnels, right? And that was his thing. He was building funnels online with video. And I was like, okay, this is great. It's a great agent attraction tool. But ultimately, I filed that away. I'm like, these guys are somewhere else. I have no idea. I think he was in Dallas or something, maybe California. But I was like, they're so far away. It's so disconnected. I just don't know. I need somebody here. And then the other thing is we have a lot of family down in Florida. My son was born in Sarasota. And ultimately, we were like, we kind of want to do this in 2 different cities. Yeah. And I said, who else has already figured this out? I'm like, Eric. Yeah. They figured this out. So we re-engaged with you, and it was like, hey, you've already kind of taken the path. You've taken the steps that we want to be taking. And me being me, it's like, I want to take it the easy route, right? I don't want to forge through the forest on my own with a machete. I want to take the beaten path to success. Yeah. The guaranteed win. Because I just don't have the extra time and energy to waste. So we looked at your guys' situation and said, okay, they've already done this. They've figured it out. Yeah. And we're going to align our business with yours. And it was an easy decision after that. Once I dragged her out of Coldwell,
I didn't know
got her on board. Yeah.
I didn't know I should have been trying to convert Tedra the whole time.
Yeah, it was. I
was already closed.
I'm very loyal, and so EXP, we're not going anywhere because there's no way. There's nowhere better that we could go. But I was the resistant one, and it was because I want that structure, and that for me and with our team, and growing our team is obviously an absolute necessity, but we had so much more of that there, and now we get to go build it. it, right?
Yeah.
And EXP, I think, has offered, there's so many things that you can do. And, you know, Gordon's talking about, you know, a group that does YouTube and funnels. And I'm like, I don't even know what a funnel is. Like, I do now. I do.
Oh, okay.
But, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not necessarily my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But, you know, what we've been figuring out and what we've realized for our business is the bumps in the road is like, we're also married, and it's not just a business that we're running together, right? It's a home and a life, and figuring that out is not easy. So surrounding ourselves with people who are also figuring it out and doing the same thing, because every day is a little bit different, was really important. And I didn't realize it was until we connected with you guys, because truly we had that phone call, and Gordon was like, and again, I was the resistant one, right? Gordon's like, so we get off the phone and he's like, so what do you think? And I was like, well, let's sign up. Do we do it now? Do we do it tomorrow? Like, how are we doing this? Because this was obviously the answer for us, and not once have we ever looked back. Like, not once.
I've never had a regret. Now, earlier in this conversation, you were talking about the secret sauce, right? I was willing to lay out the secret sauce about what I was doing, right? I had the very similar experience at both my previous brokerages where the top performance would pat you on the head like, all right, you're being a good little agent. Scurry on. I'm not telling you anything. Right? Especially at Coldwell, it was really difficult because I had such great relationships with the people, but ultimately they were very guarded with what they were doing to win. And I just assumed like, okay, maybe they figured something else out, and I will eventually as well. But the crazy thing about EXP is the mindset is completely flipped.
Yeah.
We have agents that are shouldn't even be in the business anymore. They could be retired 10 times over, and they're like, okay, how can I help you build? How can I help you get better? Right? The secret sauce is laid out on the table in every day, right?
Yeah.
From agents breaking down their entire tech stack to showing you the ropes and making introductions so you can level up into new programs or new systems or be in the rooms with people that are succeeding at a high level. You just don't get that camaraderie anywhere else.
Yeah, 1000%. And it's funny because like I remember when you called me to talk about EXP, because you'd reached out and you're like, dude, like what? You have like a team up here. You're in Florida. Like what's going on? And I was like, I haven't talked to you in forever. Like, hey, what's going on? And you're just like, yeah, like, you know, my wife got licensed and we're trying to figure this out. But it's, you know, a lot of times when we were thinking about making the jump, like I interviewed for EXP for 2.5 years. So when I left Coldwell, before I joined Keller, I interviewed a couple EXP teams, and I knew I wanted to go to EXP. But the coach was at Keller, and I was like, if I jump off and just jump into that, like I think it could have gone a completely different way. Like everything happens for a reason. But we interviewed everybody and their mom, and like people had to have hated me because like I interviewed a lot. Like I was just like, okay, I interviewed and you know, they were like, okay, well, are you thinking about coming over? I'm like, no, I'm for sure coming over. Like, I just want to find the right person. And it was just, you know, we just got off a phone call with Cam, who's in our upline, and brought us on the most random, like, he just messaged me on Facebook. I'm like, I told Cam, like, this creeper is in my messages about, like, real estate. Yeah. And it's funny how God makes things work. So we were coming down to Florida that week. And he's like, oh, I'm in Cape Coral. So I told Katelyn, like, you know what? Like every time I've done something weird, it's always worked out like best. Like when I reached out to Eric Connor and I didn't want to, it's like every time I've taken that uncomfortable step, it's when like everything has fallen into place. So I messaged him. I'm like, let's go to a hockey game. And he's like, I love hockey. Let's go. We met him in person. I told Katelyn, like, he's as interesting as it gets. Like he is Cam, for people who don't know, he is one of one. Like he is unique as all get out. But we interviewed everybody, and we felt like we were going to get the support and the help with the group we ended up at. And there was I don't recommend people doing this, but we had kind of finalized it in between two people, and Katie was like, "Well, call the other person and let them know you're going to join Cam, and then call."
Not a nice thing to
Not
do.
a good thing to do. But we were stuck. Like we were at Panera. We couldn't figure it out. We were like I'm sweating bullets. I'm like, it's Ohio, so it's cold. I shouldn't even have been sweating. But like Katie's like, just call, call the other agent, let him know you're going to join Cam and see what his reaction is. Like, just like get it, because that's where we were leaning anyway. So I called that agent, I told him, and he ripped into me. He was just like, that's cool. We didn't even like you anyways. We never really liked you. My wife doesn't like you. It's probably better. You're not going to make it anyways. And I went back in like defeated to Katie, and I was like,
what happened?
I'm like, I think it's Cam. And she's like, what happened? And I explained it to her, and she's like, you know what? She's like, maybe we screwed this up. Call Cam, same thing. Like, so I called Cam, and I'm like, hey, I'm actually going with the other agent. And Cam was just like, couldn't be happier for you. You're going to succeed. I'm here for you. Still reach out. And that was like me and Katie's like, okay, that's
the litmus test. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, though. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're saying full disclosure. Let's hear it.
Well, everything came back. You're still friends with the agent. We still talk to them. It's not like we hate them or anything.
I talked to him after, and I understand now being here the upsetness. So
they were realizing they took a big loss losing you. That's
and he called a couple days later, and he was like, I was completely out of line. And he's like, I really wanted you over here. I really like you as a person. He's like, none of what I said was true. And he's like, but I just like was distraught, and that was the way I was like, don't do that next time. And I was like, but we're still good friends. We still talk. But
what's interesting, because I've been interviewed for EXP by several agents over the years, starting all the way back in like 2015 when I first got licensed.
Yeah.
The opportunity had just hit Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And, I'd been sat down. I'm like, I would love this idea. Right.
Yeah.
But ultimately I was in too much of a position where I needed to have success on my own, that I couldn't be recruiting agents to a company that just started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that I know the story, I'm like, I realize they were already 6 years into the business, and they had figured it out. And Glenn had been in the business for 2 decades. So they knew what they were doing. I just didn't have the confidence in my own personal self to go out there and lead.
Yeah.
But, looking back, I'm like, wow, what would life look like if I was the second agent in Cincinnati?
Yeah. You'd be on a yacht right now.
Yeah. Podcast, right? I'd be on a plane going to Ibiza or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it all works out for itself, and
100%.
I'm really glad that we've crossed paths again, and now that we've partnered up, look at the amount of lives that we affect between the clients, the agents on the other side of the deal, between us. I mean, we represent hundreds of different situations every single year. And I think that we are helping people come out with a better outcome at the end of the day.
For sure. I just wanted to kind of share something about the validation, I guess, of when I was like, okay, this is really working, and these are our people, because I think that's so important, is like leading a lot of teams. Like when I left my previous career, it was all people that I had brought up. It was all people that I had trained, whether they started as a team member and I promoted them several times. So it was really hard to leave that, right? But now we found our people in real estate, and we've done that with our team. But the moment that Gordon and I, we were still very much in build mode. Like, how do we get business? How do we do this? How do we make a name for ourselves? How do we make sure people know the green team? Because people knew Gordon, right? And they're like, oh, he brought his wife on. All right, let's meet her. How do you pronounce that name? I have no idea how to say that, right? So like, how do we meet people, introduce ourselves, and really start to set ourselves apart? And we went out on a limb, and I am not the person who goes out on the limb. You give me a project and I will execute it, but I'm worried about it the whole time. And Gordon's like, let's do a giant broker open. We've got this property that, they're trusting us. They've canceled a listing with somebody else and want to work with us. We've got to do something big. And it was a big vision, and making that come to life was stressful, but a lot of fun. But it was something that we had shared with you guys, and we had shared with Cam, right? This was a big step for us and our team and what we were doing, and we wanted to do events and all of the above. And you guys had let us know you were coming, and we were just beyond grateful and just floored that you guys would come up here to Cincinnati for this event, one night only event, right? And be there to support us. And we got our teams together because we had, to be able to do that. And then I remember like literally crying, you guys come in, and then seeing Cam do the same thing and be there.
Yeah.
And it was such a moment. Like, I will never forget that, because it was life changing or business changing of what we've done. And I remember Cam telling me, is like, okay, now you need to remember one day you've got to show up for your people like I just
Yeah.
showed up for you, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, he's absolutely right. And so I think that's something that, I think of that and I'm reminded like why we made the right decision, and I'm constantly reminded of that. But because of it's all reinforced. But I think it was really really cool, and one of those moments that I will never forget. And how we try and build our business with our team and our people too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
You,
a magical moment, honestly, and to see how much you guys cared and believed in us and supported us was outside of the norm, and
Yeah.
it was very refreshing, and I felt like we couldn't lose, right? And ultimately, the next day we had that broker's open. And we packed the house. We made the air conditioner shut down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in there,
Yeah.
but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was. The crazy part about that story, though, is that we didn't sell the listing.
oh, no.
Unfortunately, right? Like this
It's
was
bounced
one
around.
where, yeah, and it's tough because the sellers are great, and the other agents that have, it's just a tough situation for them, and
Yeah.
but it's one where it was by far like it's never a loss. The fact that we didn't sell that house for them, that entire thing was absolute win for us and what we did for our business to show us what we were capable of and to show us that our people were going to support the heck out of us, which was really really amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Like we loved going up there, and the fact that you guys put it on, like it was such an awesome event. But I think it speaks more to you guys, like the amount of people that were there,
Yeah.
and not just it wasn't like it was just us and Cam Smith. Like there was tons of people in the house supporting you guys, and it just goes to show like that's how many people you have in your corner. That's how many people care about you guys. Like you do everything the right way. You guys are awesome. So like we're beyond appreciative. Just even be invited and get to go to that. And we had an awesome time, and just to be able to do that kind of stuff, like for us, like we always want to surround ourselves with the right people, and that's where we're at, where we feel like we've really surrounded ourselves with the right people, and that's where business takes off. That's where things grow. That's where you get support and help, and you guys have helped us. You've helped your team, you've helped the groups, you've helped the Cincinnati EXP team, but you're always willing to give with nothing in return, and that's why you guys have always had so much success.
Yeah. Well, we so appreciate it, guys, and this conversation has been phenomenal. It's been great to connect with you guys as well, because
Yeah.
it's spring and summer market, and it's been really busy for us. And I think you guys are probably similar to us, we're just in the trenches, working, closing deals, trying to live life, and so it's been nice to take a little break and reconnect on the call here.
Absolutely. I'm glad to get the story and the breaking news.
We
Multiple.
get the lore. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the breaking news part of it. But thank you guys for taking the time, and we'll do this obviously more often, and have you guys be able to do these and just be able to hear more about how your business is growing. And I know the next time we do this, like you guys are going to be just continuing to hit new records. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
no problem.
You.
See you guys.
See ya.
Out.